need it all. Do you want it though? Where do I begin? I see the hate, they don't wanna see me win. Bank deposits, I got more coming in. Top down, throw the money in the wind. I don't want it all. Heard the scammer had to switch up the accounts. Moving paper, gotta call it my account. It's all in, I can have it coming out. Been through the struggle, I can see another drought. Yeah, it's not a purse, it's a merge. 6 figures, what's a gold? Now it's 9, no, I heard, put it work. Used to pull up, not swerve, no time for the snakes, trying to put them in the dirt, that's word. I gotta get it, it's in my DNA. You only see the highlights, don't know what it takes. Last year stressing, got no sleep. Now I'm right between the courts, I done no bleed. Yeah, I see the hate, they don't wanna see me win. Bank deposits, I got more coming in. Top down, throw the money in the wind. I don't want it all. Heard these.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of 5 F's to Love. Well, if you haven't been keeping up, you're probably thinking she's on every night. We are. We're now on 7 days a week. And tonight is the finance night. What better night to do it? Saturday night, because this is when everybody is thinking about spending money. They're going out, they're having a great time, but we're going to have a great conversation. So if you don't catch it because you guys are out partying, share it anyways. Make sure people are watching it on Sunday, on Monday, any day. They can eat it like while they're having breakfast tomorrow, they can do it. So let me tell you something. I'm really excited. These guys are going to help me get my money straight and help you get your money straight. So listen, to start this out, you're probably thinking it said squad. You are correct. But tonight we're bringing on Mordecai. Mordecai is going to talk to you. He's a financial coach, and I'm really excited to have him as part of the team. And then we have Forrest and we have Santana. They're all going to be on next week. So I'm going to tell you guys, you're talking about 3 guys who can help you get your money right. I hope you're paying attention because they're going to help you. So let me bring them in because I'm going to tell you, get your notepad out because if you don't have your money right, you need to hear the story, and he's going to have a plan of action for you at the end of this episode. So Mordecai, how are you?
I am absolutely fantastic tonight. I'm excited to be here in the space and to be engaged in this conversation. And thank you, Christine. It's just amazing. I'm enjoying this phase of my life.
You look like it. I'm going to tell you, it's so funny because my first introduction to you was not really finance, which is really, really funny because the first thing that I heard about you, it was basically you with the saxophone. And the first thing that popped in my mind was, what's going on with that? So I'm just coming straight out. I'm just gonna get in your business. I want to make it clear, everybody, if you haven't watched the show and it's your first time watching it, I'm getting in his business and I'm gonna get in Forrest and Santana's business next week. But I need to know, like, what is your story? Because you're in finance right now and you're a coach. But what is this thing? You're a rock star on stage. Like, you're a very well-known saxophonist. That's the thing that kind of pushed me back a little bit. So let's give me the scoop. I need some scoopings.
Well, I think for me, I decided a long time ago that I was going to literally exploit all of my gifts and talents, that I wanted to break the barriers of you can only be one thing in life. And I decided I was going to be multiple things. You know what I'm saying? We only do this one time. We get one shot at it. Mm-hmm. And so I actually I started playing saxophone in the 7th grade. It was a dream of mine. Graduated, got some awards. I even got a scholarship to go to University of Florida for music. I turned it down and went to Florida A&M. I got to give a shout out to Florida A&M, the greatest HBCU in the land.
Okay, seriously, Delaware State is at the top of that list.
Delaware State, or what is
Delaware State University is one of the first HBCUs. Seriously?
No, we not. Look,
don't do it.
If you don't come from the highest of 7 hills, you don't have the knowledge. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, come on. Are you serious?
The highest of 7 hills. So anyway,
we're gonna have the war of HBCUs on one of these segments, like the war of HBCUs.
We're gonna have to have it. It was, went to FAMU and played in the jazz band. And back in the 90s, in our culture, it was you can't make any money being a musician. That's not a worthy profession. What kind of future do you have, right? And so I ended up in business. My heart was I wanted to run a city. I wanted to be a judge. I wanted to be, in corporate law. And so I ended up majoring in political science and public administration. And so when I got out of college, right all through college, I interned with Procter and Gamble. I interned with the Federal Reserve Bank, and that's how I got introduced to monetary policy. And so that's the stream, right? And so and we'll talk a little bit about my story, but I ended up in Michigan in 1995, and I was working for CSX Corporation and doing some business. And I had this dream. I had this, I won't call it something on my bucket list, but I wanted to produce a smooth jazz CD. And I hadn't played in probably 5 years. And I was at an event, and a guy walked up to me, no lie, a guy from Detroit, Darren Horn, walked up to me and he said, "Do you know anybody that plays a saxophone? I've got a song that
Wow.
I hadn't played in 5 years. My horn was underneath my bed." And he said, and I was getting ready to tell him about this other guy that I know, and something.
Would it be James Carter? Was it him?
No, it was one of the guys here in Lansing, and I said, actually, man, I play. And so the next week we were in Detroit in the studio, and we recorded "The Steps of a Good Man," and it's gone around the world. Miracle has gone around the world. We remade "What's Going On," and so
wait a minute, I'm listening to that, and I didn't know that was you.
we remade it. Put one of the sisters.
That is amazing.
Yeah, and so it just happened. There's just some things that just happen in your life, and you just got to go with it. And that was one of them. But it was on my goal. It was on my bucket list, my goal, a dream, and it happened. And so we're like, the plan is to drop another one for Valentine's Day. We're calling it "Riding in the Night."
Wow.
Riding in the Night. So we got to do some editing and some mastering, but we do have one that is on the front burner. So
I'm really excited. Maybe you guys can premiere it, like not here, but when we do our live speed dating, it's at a club. That would be awesome because it's Valentine's Day, by the way. Absolutely. Our first 5F's to Love speed dating event will be in Pontiac at the Liberty Bar.
All right.
So, we're 5F's is all over now. We're doing anything with love. But let me just say this. By those photos, I'm going to say, maybe, are you dabbling in modeling? Because you take you've got a style about you. So you're not just in finance and in music. It looks like you're a model. Are you modeling? Because I'm just saying.
Well, I think you're too kind, and we'll let the audience decide if modeling is in my future. I've done just a little bit in my distant past. You understand? My sister is the real model, Tia Holland. And you can Google her right now, and she will.
Oh, I know who Tia Holland is.
Tia Holland, that is my sister.
She's way too cute to be your sister.
That's my girl. So I give a shout out to my girl. My mother, she taught us. She was like, "You smooth, you are deep mocha chocolate, so you got to have some color." My mother taught us how to dress. My father, and so my sister graduated from high school and bought a one-way ticket to New York. And she became
your sister's like, how can I say this, like on a cusp of a supermodel?
She was right there. I mean, she modeled with Naomi Campbell, and
yes, that's what I mean. Like, I know who your sister is. She's like on the cusp of a supermodel.
So right now she's focusing on her family. She has I tell her she's got a basketball team, and so she's focused on her family. And so I'm trying to convince her to tell her story, to write a book for young girls that are desiring to get into the industry, and all of the things that she experienced when she was very young, like 19 through 28, and just trying
that would be a great story.
Yeah. And so
and I hope she includes you in that story, because I'm going to tell you, I don't even want to say this, but it's the only way I can explain it. You did a backwards walk into finance. It wasn't an intentional, it was a backwards walk into finance. And you kind of it was an opportunity that created itself, and you just walked right through the door. So share that story, because I think a lot of times people think you have to go to college for finance, take accounting courses, be great in mathematics and have a clear understanding, but you just kind of walked backwards right into it, and then you just kind of blew up. So what did that look like, that space?
Yeah, I think a lot of times, again, like you say, people think that, you're this brainiac, you're this financier, right? You've always been around money. But mine was just straight up passion. I grew up, my grandmother, she owned my grandfather raised me They partially raised me. I spent a lot of time with them, and they had a shotgun. I'm from the South. You could probably hear it in my dialect, in my articulation. You understand me? And the shotgun house is you open the front door and you can see the back door, right?
Yeah.
Sitting on bricks.
I remember that.
I never had anyone in my family have a conversation with me about money.
Wow.
What I remember is arguing about money. I remember the word, we can't do it. We can't afford it. We don't have enough, right? Wait. That's what I remember when my mom and my dad, when they first separated, we were doing decent. But when my mom and my dad separated, my mother just couldn't manage. And I found out she was only making $28,000.
Wow.
And I remember sitting in high school in Florida, and I would get depressed when I would hear it thunder, because we had so many holes in the roof. I would remember that I forgot to put pots and pans down to catch the water. And so I would be like, man, I didn't put enough, pans and Tupperware bowls and stuff down. And so I get to college. I make my way to college. My life has not been the kind of life where, some people, they plan everything out and it works beautiful. My life has not been like that at all. I end up at college. I failed my SAT, right? And a friend of mine who was in the 11th grade, he tutored me. He was from Korea, right? And so he showed me all the Eastern math tricks, and my math score, it astronomically increased. But long story short, ended up at school, and I thought that when I graduated from Florida A&M that I understood money. I get this big time corporate job, and I moved from Florida to Livonia, right here in the Metro Detroit area, right? And I just got to be honest. When I got my first check, I didn't know that we were paying 33% of our offer was going to railroad retirement.
Yes.
I remember I walked into my boss' office. I said, "Hey, something's wrong with my paycheck." I was promised this amount, right? And didn't have a budget, didn't have a plan, didn't have a destination, a financial destination. Had no safety. We talk about building a safety net underneath your life.
Right.
Had no financial safety net, and I'm ashamed of it now, but it's a part of my story. I ended up at Check and Go on Grand River.
Wow. Doing what?
Borrowing cash advances.
Wow.
Getting cash advances on my check. I'm 22, 23 years old, and getting cash advances. I had a couple tragedies, a couple things that happened. And in our culture, sometimes you graduate from college, everybody thinks you're rich, right? Oh, you graduated, you're rich. And so I had too much pride to tell people that I didn't have it like that.
Right.
And that's what we're going to talk about is your money, right? Because money is a reflection of your mentality.
It is.
And so I was too prideful to say, hey, fam, I'm not there yet, right? So I would go and I would borrow it. So I started going to Check and Go. I was hooking, family members, and if I had brakes that went out, tires, or any kind of tragedy, I was right there. I was $1 over.
So you were extending money to family on an ongoing basis. Family
tragedies.
Wow.
But let's be honest about it, right? Bad management and stewardship.
Oh, period.
Like all the way around. And so one of the things that got me was I was just trying to understand how could another person who's working with me, working the same job, how can he have a boat, 3 cars, a house up north, and here I'm in an apartment?
It's the same amount of money.
We got the same amount.
And you know what? All right, so guys, we're going to take a quick commercial break, because that's something that we always wonder when we're working in the same job with other people making the same amount of money. Mordecai is going to tell you how he figured it out and how he flipped the thing is, consciously, he knew he was in the wrong space, but subconsciously he kept supporting the buffoonery. So the thing is that, folks, he's going to tell us how he figured it out, and he's going to give you the secret. So make sure you have a pen and a pencil when we get back from this quick commercial break.
I don't know about you, but you make me crazy. make it all about you. Go take it all if you want. Taking the chance, stuck in my head, not gonna leave it at that. Taking the lead, feeling your heat. Just wanna give you my best. I don't even know your name, but you got me. Cause you're all to die. We don't know what happens next, but you got me. Cause I'm next in line. You make it look so easy, making me feel so dreamy. Never wanna pay for drinks, but you got me. Cause you're all to die. Got me locked in now. Go ahead and take a shot. Do you really want me? Maybe you're just...
Hey guys, welcome back to 5 F's to Love. Tonight you're watching the Finance Squad, and you're probably thinking, where's the rest of the squad? We're introducing Mordecai tonight, and he is a financial coach, as well as someone who can just basically help you get your together. So before we move forward, I want to thank Gerald. He is our fellow podcaster from 40 is the new 60. He said, great point about money management. It is important. And that's one of the things I'm going to say as an African American. My household was a little bit different. My dad had this book, these binders for every year with all of our finances in it. So I used to see my parents sit down and go through finances, right? And my only takeaway from that was I was really good at math. That was number one. And number two, I just wanted my allowance. Because I saw that my mother was getting an allowance, like he didn't call it an allowance, but he would give her spending money. So I thought in a relationship, I'm thinking when I get married, my husband's going to give me an allowance. Like I'm going to get my little spending money. And that's what I thought. So I thought all the money comes together and then the man manages it. And we have a discussion about what we're doing. And then I get an allowance, like I get my spending money. So I'm like sitting back waiting for that moment to happen. Like I can't wait to get married so my husband can give me some spending money. And real quick, so Matt, thanks a lot. He's from Real Talk with the Men. He said everyone needs a coach. I'm going to be honest with you. You guys don't know Mordecai's story. You guys haven't heard from Santana or Forrest, but I want to be clear. These guys are going to get all my money because that whole thing of Think and Grow Rich, and Galen talked about that on Wednesday. And that's a book that I read every year at the beginning of the year. I can read it in a couple weeks because I really enjoy it. But Think and Grow Rich really is like the mindset that you need to have about how you manage your money and how you think about money. I think a lot of times we think about it in the wrong way. So I'm going to ask you, like, I need to know when you were in that office and you're watching these people with the same paycheck you got,
The same
with
pay.
boats, houses, and what were you thinking?
It's like there's obviously, I used to play sports. Obviously, I'm not in the game. Okay. I thought I was in the game, but I'm not in the game. So I would ask, hey, how you doing what you're doing? I just need to, we both assistant managers or whatever we are. And no one they would never share. Wow. They would never tell me. And so I started reading. I started, first of all, I got tired of losing. That was the first thing.
Yeah.
I did not want to tell my wife over and over, we can't afford it, because what this says is that when money tells you what to do, you are money's slave. And I'm not trying to be a slave to anything. And so when you think about money is a tool, right? You're either, what do you do with a tool? You either build something or you're fixing something.
Yeah.
And so I decided, what kind of relationship do I have with money? And it was one that I was in servitude to. It was my master. It was telling me what I could drive, where I could live, right? Who I could hang out with, where I could eat, how long come on.
That is how that is what money says to me. That upsets me.
And we don't flow like that. We don't flow like that. Money is a tool.
What money says.
That's all it is. And I don't like money talking to me like that. You understand? And so, it was a number of things, the check and go experience. And I want to speak to that because there's a lot of people that's listening that are in a place where, I had gotten so low, Chris, and I'm just going to be honest about it, where at one point, I knew enough. Watch this. I knew enough that I needed to invest. Right. So I was in the stock market, but I was broke.
And we're going to talk about that. How do you get into that? I think that's like in segment
Right.
2 or 3.
So
But yeah, that's a big thing. Yeah.
I was in the stock market. I had money in my account, but I was broke. And I had enough sense to not borrow from that money. So I'm at checking. Listen to this. I'm at Check and Go on Grand River. I don't even know if it's still on Grand River, but I'm at Check and Go at Grand River. I got money in a stock account because I knew enough. So we were taking $450 to $500 a month, and we were stashing it. So, but I didn't have the strategies. I didn't have a coach, and I got tired of losing. So I started taking finance classes. I went and I wanted to understand. I knew economics. I understood monetary policy. Well, at least I thought I did. Right. And if you manage your house the way the federal government manages this country, you will be broke.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And so just understanding economics is not enough. Having a degree is not enough. And when I sat in the class and I began to understand some of the principles, I recognized, watch this, it was my mentality. You know what I was battling with?
What?
I wanted to prove to everybody around me that I was this man. I was making it.
My God.
I was
Mordecai.
I'm gonna keep it real. If you're gonna come to the finance squad, we're gonna keep it real. We're not here. We're not throwing up formulas on the screen.
I love that. Because so many of us are doing that.
Yes, I was playing a role. I had created this role that and let's just be honest, that money is a wonderful indicator of who you are on the inside.
It is.
And so there was some internal battles. I wanted to prove honestly to all the people who said that I couldn't make it, that I was making it. So I was willing to do anything necessary to uphold this image.
The image.
And so here's a couple principles that I began to recognize. Number one, money does not come to those who need it, but to those who manage it.
Good job. People, did you write that down?
Money does not come to those who need it, but to those who manage it. And so I recognized, and I started playing it back in my mind. And what happened was about 23 years ago, my father passed away. He bought a house, paid insurance on it. Inside of that insurance, part of the insurance was that if he passed, that, the portion of the death benefit would go to paying the house off.
Right.
When my father passed, I was sure that the house would get paid off. And the insurance company called and said that the policy had lapsed a couple of months before it. Now, he paid 20-something years into this policy. And when my father passed, the insurance company said that the policy had lapsed. They had tried to get in contact with him with no success. And we lost the house.
See, you know what? And I'm going to tell you right now, your buddy Forrest is coming on next week. He said, fake it till you make it.
That's my boy. Forrest already know that is a misnomer. You cannot fake it till you make it. You
can't fake it. Do you know how many people say that? And then to your point, that's the thing. Your father had paid up to that point, and then basically within a matter of a couple payments, all the 27 years of payments is just out the door. It's pissed away.
It's gone.
So now you're left with nothing.
So there was a lack of management, right? There was a lack of follow-up. There was a lack of, I tell people all the time, you have to be more accountable to your future than you are to your past.
Yeah.
And most people are way more accountable to what happened than to what will be and what can be.
But Mordecai, what about people who have this mindset of, I'm spending it all while I'm here. I'm not passing anything on. When I hear people say that, I go, what are you saying? You don't know when you're going to go. So why are you spending it all right now? I don't understand that mindset.
Well, I think we don't understand it because we have a sense of how blessed we are, and we want to leave something for the generation behind us, right? That's coming behind us. We all say that we're standing on the shoulders of great men and women before us. And it is a tragedy. It is one of the greatest mismanagement principles, is to take everything that God have created, helped you to amass and to multiply and to invest, and leave nothing for the next generation to build. That is the definition of failure. That is the definition of true failure financially, right?
Financially.
Absolutely, especially when you have it. It's one thing when you've had some
don't.
circumstances, but when you have it to do and won't do it. Matter of fact, we say in financial management, you are a steward. There's a Greek word that it forms the root word for economy, and it literally means to manage the affairs of another person's house. And so if you want to be great at finances, you have to look at whatever you're making, whatever you're bringing in, it's not mine. I'm stewarding this for the next generation. I'm going to use some of it for myself to make sure I do what I need to do, but it's not just for you. And that's why our community is in the shape that is in. That's not the only reason.
But
right?
that's one of them.
That's one reason, is that we have to think, right? So here's the other statement that we say: there is no prosperity without posterity.
I like that one.
There is no.
Say that again, Mordecai.
There is no prosperity without posterity.
I like that one.
A lot of times we think that we're succeeding, but we've not set up anybody behind us. There's no success.
We're not setting it up.
Right.
And that's the thing. A lot of times we're not. And so, of course, Forrest is 100. Forrest, you just should have came on. I don't even, Forrest, you really on the show with us?
He's in the comments.
Yeah, he's in the comments. Forrest will be here next week, guys. And that kind of lends to, where we're going with our next questions, which is, what are some of the common mistakes that people make when establishing a budget? Because that's one of the things when you were talking about how you were going to check and go and you were doing this and doing that, but you were still putting like $450 to $500 away. You were doing that on $26,000-$30,000 a year. Absolutely. But the bottom line is you had to establish a budget. So can you walk people through some of the common mistakes people make when establishing a budget?
Yeah, I think some of the principles are this, is that there are some things that cannot be accomplished at the last minute. We're gonna pause. We're gonna take a little moment right there. There are some things that cannot be accomplished at the last minute, and so one of the mistakes that people have is I'll wait to establish a budget till I get my next raise. I get the job that I want. They have this imaginary income that they're going to achieve, and then when I get this money, then I'll be able to set a budget. But I don't make enough to budget because watch this. The mentality is that I don't make enough, and so I don't need a budget. And the truth of it is, you probably make enough, and if you had a budget, you would see that you make more than enough.
And I think that's the big thing. I think like people see they make the money, but they're not budgeting the money. And I'll be honest with you, that's one thing I was really great at. And I will say this, and it's so true. If you can't balance a checkbook, you're not going to take care of your budget. And that's one of the things that I had to, even once we got rid of checkbooks, my dad was like, well, you have a budget sheet. You need to balance that out. That's like a checkbook, and write your check numbers next to it. And I still do that to this day. It's a little weird. I still do that, but it makes sense. But the other thing is, I don't think people understand, Mordecai, there's a difference between a budget and setting up a long-term, short-term savings plan. A budget is to manage. So can you explain the difference and then go into what a short-term and long-term is? Because a budget is to manage your budget, your monthly expenses. But a long-term, short-term savings plan is either to buy. Well, you tell them. Here go me. I'm about to tell it. Go ahead.
I think this is an important conversation, that everything starts. We say it starts with where you're going. So when we start with people, it's where are you? So one of the biggest mistakes is, are you willing to be honest with yourself about where you are? That's the first mistake, that many people want to financially succeed, but they're not willing to be honest about their discretionary spending, their impulse spending, right? And so it's important, right? And you can't manage what you can't.
I raised my hand first.
Right. So when they gave us those debit cards and you could swipe, and you didn't have to manage that. That
was the downfall. Those darn debit cards.
Right. And they watched this, and the banks knew that people don't have budgets, so they put fees in. We're gonna actually let the transaction go through, but we're gonna pay it and charge you.
$32. At first I think it was like $15, and it went to $20. Now it's $37. So you have to that, and another fee on top of it going through. So yeah.
So you think about your budget is for really your monthly expenses.
Yeah.
Okay. But then
say that again. What is the budget for?
Your budget is for your monthly expenses. Your monthly expenses.
And that does not include my little, I saw this pair of glasses and I got to get them. Not that. That's not included.
That's all included.
But I'm just saying I did the budget and then I go out and I see these glasses. I'm like, I got to get these glasses. That's like
that's impulse spending. That's outside of the budget.
That's outside, but you could build an impulse. You could be like, you got 200 for an impulse, right?
Absolutely. So we call it, in my budget, we call it blow money.
Okay, there you go.
Blow, right? So this is money that you can use for anything you want, because a lot of people feel like a budget is going to bind them up. Right? Oh, I'm not going to be free. Well, you build in a little freedom, right? You build in some of that until you really get your discipline down, right?
Right.
And so your budget is for your monthly expenses. And then you have other financial goals. You have other life goals. Let's call them life goals. You want to buy a house. Well, you know you can't just buy a house like you buy a car. You got to have some skin in the game, right? Depending upon your credit score, depending upon where you're buying, your buying power, right? Your debt to income ratio. There's all these kind of factors.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Forrest, would you just tune in and just come on? I don't have time for this. Forrest is over here. He said it's like saying, I'll give my life to Christ when I get my life right. Forrest, I can't. And then he does this. Hashtag blow money. Forrest, just come on. Why are we waiting next week?
We're gonna have a good
time. The girl said pay yourself. So he's in agreement with what you're saying, like pay yourself, which is the blow money. Forrest, just come on. Just send him the link. Just come on, Forrest. I don't even know why.
Just turn his camera on. I don't know why he playing.
I don't know. He in the conversation. You might as well come on, Forrest.
I mean, we're having a fun conversation, but honestly, let's level set. There are a lot of people that are listening that are lost.
Yeah.
They feel like they're in a cage and they can't make it out. And so what we're talking about is really accountability to your future, to your children, to yourself first, right? And so get that budget together. You know, my wife and I, during the pandemic, we recognized that we had not set a pandemic budget. We'd never been through a pandemic. So we assumed that we didn't have the skills to make it through a pandemic. So we changed our communication. We looked at our budget and we redid our budget. We restructured our budget because we are now in, watch this, we are in the unknown. Neither one of us have ever been through this. So the question then became, how do we want to come out of this?
Right.
Do we want to come out of this double broke? Or do we want to come out of this super level-headed, and ready to move forward? Watch this, with opportunities that will arise because we have been in a pandemic.
Okay, now folks.
So what we decided to do was,
let me ask you a question, Mordecai.
Yeah.
You all came because it's nobody in the house with me, so I didn't have that conversation. Okay,
you need a coach. You need an advisor.
Okay. So that's what I'm trying to get to. So folks, if you're like me and you don't have a Mordecai, you need to get to Mordecai. And I'm going to tell you, if you guys DM me, I will connect you with him on social media so you can make an appointment to see him. Mordecai is available for financial counseling and coaching on one-on-one. What we do on this show is just to give recommendations. When we get back, Mordecai is going to give you suggestions and recommendations on how to make someone who's struggling with understanding the basic principles of finance. He's going to go through it step by step, and we'll be right back after this commercial break. Hey guys, welcome back, and thank you to our sponsors, Duke and Dane and the Black Liqueur Company. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm feeling a little inadequate because but we talked offline. I already told you guys are going to take over my life, and I'm okay with that. I'm one of those people, and women go through this thing of I don't want somebody to tell me what to do with my money. I'm the total opposite. I will go make all the money. I need somebody to tell me what to do with my money. And I think in reality, some of us just need to be realistic about that, right? And I'm okay with being that way. My goal was always to marry someone like my dad who would give me my allowance because all I want to do is go to work. Now that doesn't mean I don't want to know what goes on with the money. I want to have those monthly meetings. I want to be a part of the decision making. But I happen to be one of those people in the mindset of, and by the way, folks, so we're clear, I've taught algebra, trigonometry, differential equations, calculus. That was me. Okay. I understand it. I have 2 degrees in chemistry. Totally understand mathematics. I'm not an idiot by no means, but I'm not money smart. And that's where I think people misunderstand. So, we want to talk about the struggles again. Forrest, can you just come on the show? He said people have too much month for their money. A good budget will flip that around. Forrest, can you just come on so we can just talk all of this? Forrest, I'm putting all your comments on it. You can just be on the show.
I told him, I said, look, man, you got to be in the comment section. These are the conversations that we have.
I love Forrest. It's so that's the thing. You're going to talk to people about suggestions and recommendations you would make to someone struggling with understanding the basic principles of finance. Because that's what this is. It's just the basic principles. So and by the way, he's talking to me too. For everybody who's watching, he's talking to me as well. So what are the basic principles?
Well, I think, when we talk about the basic principles is that you maximize time. Time is a commodity when it comes to the principles of finance. The more time you have, right, then you have, the commodity to do more. The less time you have, that changes what, you need to do. So if someone's listening to us and you're 65, you're not out of it, right? It just changes what needs to happen, right, at the level that you're at right now. And so what we talk a lot about are the money mindsets. The first one is that you got to find out where you are. We always start there. Where are you? And so here's the question. Is it working for you? Mm-hmm. Are you achieving the goals that you want to achieve? Right? So what I tell people to do as a coach, I sit them down and I ask them to close their eyes and I ask them, what is in your heart that you want to do that you feel totally denied that you can't do because of money? And I want you to write down those things that are in your heart that you want to do for yourself, for your family, right? For whoever it is, your significant other, right? That your partner. What is your purpose? We got to start there. What do you want to do? What is what is your purpose and who are you? I'm bringing my struggle. You get what I'm saying? What I found out was that I was not accountable to myself, and I had to own that. I was failing financially because I was being fake. I didn't have a destination. I didn't know what I wanted to achieve. When do you want to? I hear a lot of people say, "I want to buy a house." When? Okay. When? Right. When do you want to buy the house? Well, Mordecai, I want to buy a house. That's not good enough. No, you don't want to buy a house. Are you saving for that house? No. Well, you don't want to buy that house. That's a wish and a hope and a dream that'll never happen. And so that first mentality is you have to challenge your who-ness. You have to challenge, are you the kind of person that you're proud of? That
again.
Are you the kind of person that you are proud of?
I'm not.
Like we're talking about money now. This is about money, right? You can't talk about is your money right and we not talk about you.
I'm not. I'm being real. I'm not. I told you that. And I'm very transparent. I'm not.
That's where I was. I got tired of going to check and go. I got tired of being fake. I got tired of being rejected and being denied. And let me tell you this story. I had a tragedy in my life that happened. And I watched. Now, Chris, this is going to sound crazy because I need everybody to know we don't all come from money. We don't all come from money. I needed $2,000. I went into the Novi Bank and I asked for a loan for $5,000. The guy told me, the VP of the bank said, you have the character and you have the capacity, but you don't have the credit.
Wow. Did he say it like that? You know what? I'm not doing this with Forrest.
He said, you have the character, you have the capacity, but you don't have the credit. And so I didn't have a roadmap. I didn't have any specific goals that I was trying to achieve. Let me tell you what I was doing. I was getting up in the morning, going to work, coming home, and complaining about what was not happening in my life. So the first thing I did was, when I went to school, I got a coach. Wow. And the first thing they asked me, what do you want to achieve? I said, I want a house. I said, do you know you need 20, 30% down? How much do you make? How much do you spend? Didn't have those questions ironed out, right? How much does your wife spend? Uh-oh. How much does she make? Uh-oh. What's your collective net worth? Uh-oh. All these questions, right? So we got to get real about ourselves. We got to sit down and start writing down, what is the destination? We call it the GPS point, where you're starting and where do you want to be? And so every year we do that with folks. Where do you want to be? And now let's lay out a plan, a strategy to help you get there. Watch this. And what people find is, when they write down their goals and they establish a plan and a strategy, it's fun. It's amazing what happens when you set goals and you stick to them and you say, I'm going to put 10% over here. I'm going to put 2% over here. And after a while, you see that money start stashing up. You know what it does? It breaks what we call the survival mentality.
It does. And I'm going to tell you that is so true. When I set out, because I own my house, I own my cars straight out. Okay. And the thing is, I did that. I did exactly what you said. That was my short-term goal, was to save this money, identify the car I wanted. I did research, and I said, you know what? You got to come up with at least 80%. That's it. You got to come up with your 80%, and you're going to go in and get this car. But the thing is that I didn't know anything about an amortization schedule, about paying off a house. And my dad showed me that. And he's like, no, pay your mortgage, but then you got to pay on top of that the amortization schedule. And I was like, how do you do that? He was just like, Christine, you just have to take a certain percentage and pay it on top. And I was like, he says, ask them for it. It'll tell you what amount. And I said, it's just that easy. It was just that easy. So I paid off my house in 10 years.
That's right. Take a 30 to 15 years.
Exactly. Right. And that was the thing. So for me, it worked because I got a second job. So here I'm a single mom, working full time, going to school full time. And I was just like, I got to get another job just to take that check, put part of it away, but then take part of it and pay on the schedule. Right. And that's where I was. And I stayed focused on that. And I was able to pay off my house. So I'm going to tell you guys, when you don't have to make a mortgage payment anymore or a car payment, I felt like I was just let go off of the slave trade. I'm not going to play.
A mortgage is like a noose around your neck, right?
It is.
Look up the actual word. I think it's something like a noose. What it actually means. It means something like a noose, right? I think it's important that, again, there are people out there that don't have the energy for a second job. Yeah. Their one job is gassing them out. And so what we say is, I just want to encourage those to stop everything that you're doing. It's not working. Stop. Just stop right now. Take a deep breath and make a decision that you're going to change your mentality about what you're doing. And find folks, people that you like. So someone says, read that comment that's coming in.
Gertrude said, I understand you have to keep it real with yourself and keep it truthful. And sometimes I don't think, Malachi, we want to face the truth. We don't. About where we are, because again, so many of us are living out loud for everybody else.
Everybody else that's not talking. Everybody else. It doesn't even matter. Let me tell you what we did. We decided, when we went through those situations and I started getting training, I got a coach. We decided that we did not necessarily need to build credit, but we needed to reduce our debt.
Wow.
So this is a goal. So we valued a debt reduction over credit building.
Wow. But keep in mind, folks, that plan is going to be different for everybody. That was just their plan.
That was our plan. We value, like, walking around saying, I don't have any credit card debt. Walking around saying, I don't have a car payment. Like
that's awesome.
You know what I mean? Like, that's what we valued. Like, so watch this. We just started getting credit cards maybe 5-6 years ago.
Okay.
Everything we did, we financed. If we did not make it, If we could not pay cash for it, we didn't do it.
Okay, I'm
Period.
gonna tell you right now, I'm done with Forrest. Forrest, just be on the show with us. We only got another 15 minutes. Forrest says those goals have to be 1, obtainable, 2, measurable, and 3, accountable. And that's the thing. And so he also said, which which in turn will be bold credit.
Absolutely.
Build credit. It will build credit. And that's the thing, guys, and just if you're just joining us, Forrest is actually on this show. You guys will see him next week, and that's the reason why I keep teasing him. So it's Mordecai, it's Forrest, and it's Santana. Really great group of guys. They're going to help us get our money together, me included. And we really want to pay attention. One of the goals they're really focused on is making sure that minorities understand how to build wealth, maintain wealth, and grow wealth, continuously grow wealth. And if you don't understand those common things, we're going to continue to have the cycles that we go through. So, Mordecai and I talk, we don't want to leave our kids with nothing.
No.
Like, we want to make sure our kids are left on a better playing field than us. Like when I started driving, my parents didn't give me a car, but me, I'm able to give my kid a car. He turns 21. I'm going to give him the house that I'm in right now.
That's
and I'm
right.
going to go get another house. I'm going to give him this one. But I didn't get a house. So the thing is our goal is not to repeat our family legacy. Is to pull back and start something new. Folks, we're going to be right back after this commercial break. And I'm going to tell you right now, when he comes back, he's going to tell you what you should be doing in your 30s versus what you should be doing in your 50s. Okay? Because that's real talk, y'all. Y'all need to keep up with what's coming hitting. All right, we'll be right back after this commercial break.
Look at me, I'm on. 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 Can't stop, keep going. Can't stop, keep going. Can't stop, keep going. Can't stop, keep going.
Yeah. Okay. Hold up. Yeah. I'm chasing a bag, I'm racing the clock. Look at them block, watching them flop. Used to see this in my sleep. When I ain't had shit but my thoughts in the car, I really was lost. Now I'm public with the soundscapes. Niggas floss, I'm really pulling strings for the pound cake. I see you went for a puppet in the clown face for a little wage. That shit, the talk of the town is late. Still me, I never switch sides. Came a long way with the gas tank running on fumes.
Hey guys, welcome back. I'm always dancing to the commercials. Tomorrow we have Dr. Shelley, and that's Family Love. She's going to have Sunday dinner conversations where she's going to talk about everything. Folks, here at the 5F's to Love Network, we cover everything that's related to relationships. So we want to make sure that we come out better at the end of the day. Catch us on any day of the week from 8 to 9 p.m. and you'll catch one of our podcasts. So I'm going to tell you right now, before we get started, Forrest, I think you're outstanding, and I can't wait till you're on next week because you are straight up in this right here. Hashtag life insurance. I love Forrest, like hashtag life insurance. I love him. I just can't wait till he's on next week. And so Mason74 said, well-rounded topic. Keep them coming. We need info like this. So that's the whole thing. We were really focused on making sure. When I talked to Mordecai, I said to him, relationships aren't anything unless your finances are right, right? And then once you get your finances right, you start dating, then you kind of develop into these relationships. And then we're going to talk about family love. So it's like we had to go full circle But then I also didn't want to leave out the conversation with men and women separately, relationship experts, somebody's going through it from 60 is the new 40. And then we got our LGBT community. It's like gaining a better understanding, because now with our children being fluid and polyamorous, it's a lot happening. And I want us to understand, we got to understand all of this so we can continue to grow in a positive direction. And Gertrude, I'm going to tell you, she's been with us since season 1. I love my people who support me. Gertrude, much love to you. I really appreciate all your support. She said, thank you for this financial information, learning to turn around my finances in a more positive goal. Thank you. Oh, you're so welcome, Gertrude. She's like a ride or die. Gertrude, right? Look, Gertrude, we go on the road, girl. You're going to have a ticket to roll with us, because you've been with us since day 1. So, folks, look, we want to get back, because this is really important. You and I talked, and I said to you, for me to start these 3 companies, I emptied out my 401k, my savings. And I was like, so for right now, I've just been making money and pouring it back into one of the businesses. And you were like, no, we're going to fix that. And you were like, Christine, don't worry. We're going to give back all that money that you spent and some. We're going to take care of it. But that's the thing. Like, I'm 51, and I was kind of freaking out, but I know the great things are coming with each one of these businesses. So it's worth the investment. I invested in myself, right?
Yes, that's right.
But there's a difference. So explain to people the difference between a 30-year-old starting versus a 50-year-old starting and planning for retirement or building, their future savings.
Yeah, I think when you're in your 30s, they say, every 10 years you have to reinvent yourself. In your 30s, they say, and this is research based upon Dr. Bobby Clinton's 70 years of studying life. And he says that in your 30s, it doesn't matter what you're doing. It's about building the internal infrastructure of character in your life. And so as it relates to your finances, what does your finances say about your character? So what we say is get some insurance. Forrest put it in the comment section. You have a family, and you know what I'm saying? Insure your future. Don't die and have people out here doing a GoFundMe and have folks trying to do a crowdsourcing to bury you. You can get, what I did, right? But when I was at a certain level, I got term life just to cover my children for 18 years. I had small children, and we figured out, okay, so many years, my youngest will be 18. So this is how much we need. How much is my mortgage? How much is the daily expense? This is how much money we need in order to cover my lost wages for my family. So what that did was, when we signed that agreement, that insurance policy, it lifted me up in my 30s. Now I don't have to worry about the future. If something happens to me, even right now, my wife and children will not have to beg.
Wow.
You understand? And so you start building the infrastructure of your future. This is where you start looking at your savings. You start looking at your debt. You start tweaking your budget. And watch this. You start bringing dreams into visions.
Yes.
Into reality. See, that's the great thing about money, is that when you start managing it, you start doing some things that you never thought you could do. I'm going to tell you, I sat in front of Forrest. I said, Forrest, this is what I want to do. And so we started laying out a whole goal sheet. Now watch this. 80% of the things that were on our goals, I didn't have the money in the bank to do.
Wow.
But because we started managing, and we started being accountable, guess what happened? Everything on that sheet, that goal sheet, we did it in 2 years. Are you hearing what I'm saying?
Listen, I'm hearing what you're putting down.
I'm telling you.
I hope everybody hearing what you're putting down.
I'm having the greatest time. And so we went to Africa, spent time in Africa. We took our whole family to Rome. They thought I was a football player. I got my hair. They thought I was a model. They just couldn't believe, watch this, that I was not a Hollywood movie star. How can you afford to take 5 other Black folk during Christmas season to Rome? It's called planning.
Why is Forrest putting a check mark?
No, because we got to start having fun with this. This is not a drag conversation.
It's not.
Accountability and stewardship opens opportunities. We only got a few more minutes, but I have to put these things out there. When you look at the Greek statue of opportunity, the Greek statue of opportunity only has hair on the front. because the message is that when opportunities get by you, there's nothing to grab. You have to catch opportunities when they're coming at you. It's the same way it is when you have your finances in order. You're able to take advantage of opportunities. Homes that have been foreclosed. You're able, you have the cash, you have the credit, right? And so what we want to do in this podcast, we want to begin to unlock the knowledge that has been hidden, that people are not free to share. We want to begin to unlock some of that, because it really is about who you know and what you know. Let's just be honest now. Chris, we got to be honest.
And you know what, Forrest, you're one, and Forrest, because Forrest left some comments, but you 100% Mordecai. Folks, listen, we're not being unrealistic about this at all.
No.
I want to be totally honest. You don't run across people like Forrest, Mordecai, or Santana every day. These guys have been in rooms that we will never be in to help explain to us how do we turn our money around. Whether you feel you got short money or long money, it could all be long money is what they're saying.
That's right.
But it's the way you handle it. So Forrest is basically on the show with us virtually, and he says it's called planning. And so Gertrude basically was like, Forrest is very what? Comical. Okay. But what you don't understand, Gertrude, he's not even trying to be. And he's hilarious because he's not on the show. And May Sun 74, and thank you so much for joining us tonight, May. He says, I dream of going to Africa too. It's nice. Folks, listen, when you listen to this, and if you miss it on Saturdays, we're good with that. Listen to it throughout the week, share it with everybody. Because when they come to you and next week, they're going to tell you about the dollar bill. Have you ever paid attention to the dollar bill? And I'm going to tell you, when Mordecai shared this with me, it blew my mind.
We're walking around with money in our pocket. We've never looked at it. We never looked at. We don't see the olive branch.
Oh, don't tell him, Mordecai, that's next week. Don't tell him.
We don't see none of this stuff. I want to go through one
I can't wait.
I want to go through one last thing, and we want to do the grid before we get off about the 5 money mindsets. Number 1 is surviving. And so this will help people. Are you feeling drained and trapped? Have a little sense of hope? Are you worrying about meeting basic needs, right? Your daily survival. And we know that you're in survival mode if you have to borrow money every month to meet your needs. That is a grid, right? That's at the bottom level. Survivors have to borrow money. If you have to borrow money either once a month or once a quarter or throughout the year, we want to help you move out of that surviving category. I was there. That's why I'm here. Like Forrest is comical, Santana. I'm here because I want people to win like we're winning. We're having the greatest time. The second one is struggling. This is when money causes much stress in relationships. Your relationships begin to break down and you are literally living you can pay your bills, but you're paycheck to paycheck and your debt is growing. That is what we call struggling. And then the third phase, and we'll kind of end here and we'll pick up on our next session, is stable. You don't feel secure. You don't feel like you have what you need to do what you need, right? You don't plan much for anything in the future. You're not generous in giving. You never have it. You're stingy, right? And you're one disaster away from a real hardship. They say wealthy people do not have emergencies. They just pay for them.
Okay, so is there like one above a stable?
Yes, there's one above a stable. So we go from surviving to struggling to stable. And then the next one is secure. That is number 4. This is where you feel you have enough for yourselves and your family, and you're beginning to be generous. And you're
I think I'm right there though.
You're there, right? Your lifestyle grow, but watch this. When you feel secure, your lifestyle begins to grow with your income, and you have little extra to do things with, and you're really enslaved to your debt because you feel secure, and so your lifestyle is growing with your income because you don't have a real plan. And so watch this.
That's me.
The feeling of security, we say, ultimately will bring you back to a poverty mentality.
And that's what I'm trying to avoid. I think, and that's one of the things, I'm glad we're going to go through this when you guys come back. a lot of people just assume because your business is growing that you're managing things appropriately, and I'm not. And that's one of the things when we first talked, I said, I'm going to do real talk. I'm not going to play games. I'm very transparent. I don't like to be anything that I'm not. As we're building these IT training facilities for students, I'm investing a lot of money.
That's
So
right.
when money is made, I'm talking to builders and contractors, and I'm trying to get stuff done. And I'm not thinking about saving.
Yeah.
I'm like on a paycheck. I'm not even thinking. And that's the problem where I'm at. So I'm going to tell you, Forrest, I can't wait to see you. He says, I'm just trying to pull your coattail, basically. Gertrude said, so true, about people living paycheck to paycheck and those things. And so Forrest chimes back in. He said, that's a good word, Doc. And the thing is, you did. And I'm going to say, Mordecai, you were exceptional in what you delivered. And that's one of the things you were like, we need to just get down to the hardcore truth to basically explain to people what's going on. And folks, listen, again, we put a humorous spin on it, but this is a real conversation. If you guys can rewatch this, rewatch all of their episodes when they start coming out on Saturday with a pen and pencil.
Yes.
And be serious, because they're going to be knocking out how to set up a budget if you're making $30,000 a year versus $100,000 and you want to grow it. They're going to tell us how the first steps to investing your money in the stock market. Like there's do's and don'ts, because we're not as knowledgeable as other people are. And by the way, I'm just throwing up his thumbs up because Forrest is not here, but he's saying, yeah, that's what they're going to talk about. I know he wish he could call in right now. He just call on in and just talk to us. But I want you guys to understand this show is here for a reason. We got to get our money right. And that's the reason why that's the title of the show. Get your money right with the Finance Squad. So Mordecai, I'm going to let you take us out. You let people know what homework assignment they have to get ready for you guys next week. Whatever he tells you to do, do it so you can be prepared for them next week so they can take care of your business. Mordecai, thank you to you and Forrest for coming on tonight.
Thank you, Forrest. Thanks, Forrest, for being on with us. And Santana, these are some amazing, brilliant men who help so many people. We work with so many people. And what we want you to do is to sit down. We want you to take a deep breath, and we want to ask you one fundamental question. Is it working for you? How is your plan working? And we want you to begin to lay out your goals. What is in your heart that you want to do with your life before you leave this planet? Do you want to start a business that blesses millions? What do you want to do? Like what is money telling you that you can't do? We want you to write that down. What is money telling you that you can't do? Write those things down, because those are the things that's going to bring fulfillment. And you are not a slave to money. Money is a tool. That's what it is, to fix and to build. And we want to put you on the right side of your money, and that's in control. And we'll see you on this next episode.